Guys, it's a new year, and guess what? Hackers from all over the world are still hard at work stealing your valuable data and personal information 24/7. Are you sure your identity and browsing history are protected? As you know, I was a NordVPN customer long before they sponsored the show for one reason. Their service allows me to safely browse the internet without worry that I'm being traced, all while keeping my data safe and secure. NordVPN's advanced encryption hides your location and encrypts all your data, whether you're sending it or receiving it. I want you to try it risk-free for 30 days with a money-back guarantee. To get a 2-year plan plus 1 month free for just $3.56 a month, visit nordvpn.com/Sonnen or click on the link in the description. NordVPN/Sonnen. To get yourself a 2-year plan plus 1 month free for just $3.56. So Triller recap, look, we're going to have to put up with this, right? If Triller gets something, a match that we're interested in, which in this case, I mean, the nerd versus the Olympian, it worked. It worked. It was an interesting match. I don't know that you could have put Ben Askren in there with a better partner. I don't know if anybody could have drawn this out of Ben and made him so 1.5 million pay-per-view buys interesting. I think the same would be said for Paul to an extent. I think Paul's floor is a lot higher than most. I think on a bad night, Paul's probably right now where he's at in his career, he's probably 750 to 800,000 pay-per-view buys, which, by the way, is massive. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, guys. Pay-per-view's dead. Pay-per-view doesn't exist. If you can go, that's a broad stroke statement, but nobody does pay-per-view anymore. And even when you did pay-per-view, if you could reach 1 million, that was a grand slam, and it was rare. I think Paul's floor right now sits somewhere around 800,000. As a guaranteed downside 800,000, that would make Paul one of the, if not period, the biggest pay-per-view stars in the world. Mike Tyson is not guaranteed 800,000. No way. St. Pierre, wouldn't it be guaranteed? St. Pierre would be right in there, but he probably not guaranteed. St. Pierre would be a little closer to 750. I mean, just to put in perspective, these are the guys that you would be talking about. St. Pierre's big pay-per-view draw. Conor McGregor, big pay-per-view draw. And this nerd. So there's a lot of compliments to go around, but I think that it's important that you understand that because Triller, who did a disastrous job, I mean, this was one of the worst television products that I've ever seen, and I had to watch it. I would have let them have my money, and I would have moved on with my day, but I was covering this event. I did a live YouTube segment on the show. I had to watch it. Triller will sit down in a room and they're giving high fives right now. And they're giving compliments to everybody in the room who brought these disastrous ideas to the table. And they're basing those compliments around the 1.5, which is an incredible number. And it does make you wonder just how big is Iron Mike, right? I mean, that was the big problem here. Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones did this huge number. Mike was believed to be the star and he was the main event, so Mike will leave with that credit. That's the way the television model works. If you ever have a star in a movie, by example, and the movie does great at the box office, that star will get what's called his quote on his next time up, no matter what. But it will never be factored in. Was it the supporting cast? Was it the cinematography? Was it the stunt work? It will never be factored in. Was it the production? Was it the editing? Was it the director? It'll never be factored in. It will all go to the star. And I bring that to you because we'll see a lot of these big stars that their next movie, they lay an egg. It's just a reality. Unless you're Denzel Washington or Mark Wahlberg, where you have a proven lifetime of delivering to the audience, it's always a gamble. I can think Nicolas Cage is coming to mind. Red Hot, boom, bomb. Jim Carrey comes to mind. He was funny. He was a comedian. He wanted to be taken serious. His movies were unwatchable. But I bring this to you because Mike Tyson, they're starting to throw big numbers at him. And I think that Mike is going to do fine. I don't think Mike is going to do any more than fine. And I don't think that Mike versus Roy brought in 1.7. I think that Paul was the driver of that. And I also think that Paul just proved he was the driver of that. And if you are the promoter and you're hedging bets and you're putting on Mike because you've identified him as the big star that brought in the 1.7, I think you're a little nervous right now if you've got a written contract. There's something there for Mike Tyson, and I'm personalizing it. I'm going to watch what Mike does next. I find Mike interesting. I watch a lot of his interviews. I watch a lot of stuff that he's done. I've met him in person. I just think he's an interesting guy. I also think that we now have proof of false valor being headed to Mike's ability to draw when he had Paul on the undercard. It seems as though now we know who the golden goose of that show was. I bring it to you because it was so hard to watch Triller, but we're going to have to do this again. They are not going to change. There's no part of them that's going to get into a boardroom, look across the table from the idea guy that told them to turn it into a concert and a slap contest and tell him that his idea was wrong. The numbers just show otherwise. So the knucklehead that said, let's do a slap off, let's turn this into a concert, he's still going to have a voice at the table. And he's still going to suggest this. Triller succeeded in spite of all the mistakes they made, not because of the mistakes they made. And they're just not going to understand that. I'm explaining this to you all because I've heard you on social media. I can't possibly be lit up anymore with you telling me how much you hated the show, but I also can't tell you anymore how much I hated the show. There was a concert, something that happened to have some boxing. This was not a boxing show that happened to have a concert. And I bring that to you because a lot of people have been very critical and even said that Triller has set boxing back 20 years. You're arguing that Triller has made boxing worse. Excuse me. Is that even possible? In all fairness, is it even possible to have made boxing worse? You're talking about leadership in boxing that eats, sleeps, and breathes this, and is largely second and third generation, still can't deliver the numbers that Triller did. And no, they didn't do it because of Beaver. They didn't do it because of E40 and all this ridiculousness that they did. I haven't heard from anybody that's ever tuned in to watch it because of those guys. I also haven't heard from anybody who tuned in even knowing that Beaver was going to take the stage, which adds to the fact that we weren't there for that. And they made us watch it, and they did a terrible job. They did a really, really bad job. They're going to do it again. But you acting as though Triller has hurt boxing, boxing has hurt itself and deserves what's happened to it. I thought Triller did a great job of making these 6-round contests or 8-round contests. I would ask that they make them 4-round contests or they make all the fights like Mike and Roy, which is 2-minute rounds. The worst part of a boxing event is the boxing. And no promoter has ever figured that out to the point that boxing comes in main event heavy only. You wouldn't know what the undercard was. Most people who have bought a ticket don't even come to the arena. No one wants to see it. But the problem that it's got is they're 3-minute rounds and they're up to 12 rounds. It's just too much. Too much of a bad thing is a really bad thing. If you shorten these rounds, you can start to feature some matches. I was excited personally as a fan to see Frank Mir's match. I don't know of a time that I could ever tell you in history's past that I was excited to see any match on a boxing card but the main event. So before you come and you piss all over Triller, Triller's getting some stuff right. Triller is taking an almost unwatchable product, but they're giving you much less of it. Triller's not going to understand. They understand production. They don't understand the sport. They don't know what the fans or the audience wants, and they had some big balls and they took a big risk, and they deserve a little of credit for that. I hated the show as much as you. I will not sign off on the fact that Triller has set boxing backwards. I don't even know if it's possible to do. Boxing is in such shambles, in such a sad state of affairs as it is, and they deserve to be. Trillers at least come in and they're offering you something new. They're offering you a different way to watch the sweet science, and they're not forcing you to watch as much of it. 12 rounds at 3 rounds of guys, come on. Come on, that's terrible. So Triller's at least found a way to give you half of that, which allows the ability to be excited for more matches. I think that that's a real positive. I think there's a lot of directions that this can go, but within sport, anybody that can bring you along for the journey is the one that's going to have the fans. And Paul has done a fantastic job of bringing people along. He's easily accessible. He does a lot of interviews. He puts out his own stuff when he doesn't have an interview. He brings you into the training room. He interviews people, but he brings you along the journey. I can just tell you, and I'll personalize it a little bit, right? I'm not going to shine my own wheels, but I will share with you that when I was in the sport, I had losses. That probably surprises you. And they weren't real losses. They were like nuances and glitches within the unified rules. But either way, they raised the other guy's hand. I always brought the fans along for the journey, which is why I was the boss even after a loss. I would tell the fans where we go from here. I would tell the fans what we're going to do. But that's also a leadership position where you have to take control of that. And if they're your fans and they're looking to you, tell them which way to go. I want to go bury my head in the sand. I wouldn't be a crybaby about it. No matter how bad I felt, I wouldn't come out and show it. I would bring them along for the journey. So we could have our ups or our downs or our glorious moments or our defeats together in the future. And that's what the smart ones do. Now, Paul hasn't had to go through the defeat part of it yet, but he has done a great job of including people, of bringing them in and taking them on this journey with him. So are we going to have to put up with Triller, and we're going to have to put up with some concerts that are terrible? Triller is going to accept a broadcast team that shows up high on drugs on live TV. Oscar De La Hoya, literally, who's there to promote his own fight, which I guess is taking place on Triller. Not only is he 48 years old, right? And there's not 48 years young. Fighting, drinking, and snorting cocaine will make you old really fast. He's done all, so he's 48 years old. It's a tough sell. And then he shows up stoned and drunk. If I'm the head of that show, I would just tell you, if that happened at Submission Underground where I am the boss, that person is removed. We can discuss your fee and you showed up and you are off the headset. Triller has such little concern or respect for itself that they allowed 5 drug addicts, 5 drunks up there, talking to the world about their product. So yes, Triller deserves to be backhanded. I'm not a prude as it comes to music. I couldn't listen to the lyrics that were said. It was X-rated lyrics. There was X-rated motions that went on. And this transcends times, guys. The history of music is a very fascinating thing if you've ever sat to study it. You'll remember a time, or perhaps you wouldn't. The Beatles were banned. The Beatles were public enemy number 1. The Beatles had one of the most risque and dirty lines ever spoken in the history of recorded sound as it comes to commercialization. They said, and I quote, and they even named the song, and I quote, "I wanna hold your hand. I wanna hold your hand." That was so dirty at the time that it came out. Sponsors pulled from radios, DJs fired, parents revoking. Because they said, "I want to hold your hand." True story. You fast forward a little over a decade, and then you have the king. You have the king. I'm talking about Elvis. And Elvis was banned. He became public enemy number 1 because he was gyrating his hips on stage. And that is very true. He was hated. Parents were disgusted. You could not discuss Elvis in schools. You would be detained. You would be suspended if you brought that music in because he had some dance move that invoked his hips. I only share that with you because now we are in a place, and I'm not a prude. I laughed that somebody had upset with the Beatles because they said, "I want to hold your hand." I laughed that Elvis was the first to shake his booty on stage, make the girls scream and make the parents incited. I couldn't listen to the lyrics of the words that they were using. I would never let my children in there. And I'm not a prude. I'm not a prude at all. It was disgusting. Triller brought a disgusting X-rated lyrics to something that we didn't know we were going to have to see. We knew that we were going to see a violent, aggressive, hands-on sport. We accepted that. That was too much. And then they brought us commentators who are successful, who are well-known, who are public figures, who were intoxicated. It was disgusting. It was sad. Should Triller take all of the blame? If it happens again, yes. But for now, I think you're De La Hoyas of the world, right? I'm very on board to go watch Oscar box. I'm out. And on any commission who sanctions a guy who's 48 years old, who 2 months before his contest shows up publicly stoned, shame on that commission. Even Nevada is going to give that a look. I will be surprised with what authority and what sanctioning De La Hoya's fight takes place under, but we will hold them to task. You have a guy on illegal substances publicly 2 months before a contest. He already qualifies for the strictest license status, the privileged license. He's 48 years old. You got a big problem. And now we know what else he's doing to his body because he came out and showed the world. Whatever commission, license, and sanctions De La Hoya, they're going to be hearing from me.